So, hello, Cara, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and chat with me today about your experiences with a subject that hasn't been explored on the podcast so far. Would you like to start by introducing yourself to the listeners?
Sure. So my name is Kara Brodsky. I am originally from Ithaca, New York, and I'm 34, about to be 35, and I was in a cult.
We mentioned before hitting the record button that it may have been predestined for you to end up in some type of cult.
Yeah, I mean, the area I grew up in and the kind of parents I've had, I'm not really surprised that I got into more than one cult. But I was exposed to a lot of religions and different cults, so I guess I'm pretty well versed with what goes on in the world, I suppose.
And you mentioned also living quite close to the Nexium headquarters as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was about 2 hours away from me, and just it's like, whoa, really hits home of like, what if that could have been me? Like, what if I got involved somehow? But luckily it's closed, so thank God.
And the other thing to mention as well is that you worked in a Waldorf school.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like a teacher or anything like that. I did like, like cleaning and stuff like that, but I learned the ins and outs of what that school's kind of about and just how it's like different than like a regular public school. So it was just very interesting being there, and I'm kind of glad I quit working there.
What, do you remember any of the things you would see or hear that would make you think it was a bit of a strange setup?
There was no TVs there. Um, I noticed that the kids would be outside a lot, and I just thought like a lot of it was very based on like being in nature a lot. I didn't really see a lot of teaching going on. I mean, there's definitely they're doing math and writing, but I just thought the probably biggest thing I thought was interesting is like they have very weird celebrations, and I was like, what's I think they did a celebration for like fairies or something, or like some gnome type thing. And then they would do like very interesting plays. And what they would do in like gym class was like a rhythmic kind of like stuff with ribbons and dances. And like, I just thought that was very interesting. It's like, I don't remember doing that in gym class.
I made sure to have a little look at the kind of idea around the Waldorf schools before we hit record, and the Waldorf schools are based on the teachings of Rudolf Steiner and his concept around anthroposophy, which is the premise that the human intellect has the ability to contact spiritual worlds. So definitely not conventional education in the way that we might have experienced it. And as you also mentioned, you wonder how that might translate into typical everyday life in professional working environments outside of anthroposophy. And that reminded me of the troubled teen industry and how those qualifications that people leave with often don't include a GED or high school equivalent education. And so people find themselves resitting things in their 20s that they should have had access to earlier in life. So that's the Waldorf schools for anybody that's interested. So we're going to be talking today about twin flames. This is not something that we've covered on the show before, not something that I know too much about myself. So, what do you know of the history of twin flames, or what was your understanding of it when you first came across the concept?
So when I first came across the concept, it was through like some like abuse recovery program, and the woman on her podcast, it was Melanie Tanya Evans. She has a podcast of like old podcast recordings, and she mentioned something about how she wanted to stay with an ex-husband that was abusive, and she mentioned him being a twin flame, and that's why she stayed a lot longer in the abusive relationship than she should have. And I was like, what is this concept? So I Googled it, and a lot of spiritual stuff comes up where they say it's more than a soulmate. It's like you're half of your soul in another body. And it's like, is that really possible? I mean, I guess you can have like someone has a lot in common with you, like maybe similar trauma or things, interests or whatever. But I just thought it was very weird. And they even said that your twin flame could be way older than you, way younger than you. They might have died. They might not be born yet. And just like so then I think Teal Swan mentioned it before, so I saw that again in her videos. I never, did any of her programs or anything. And then, so then when I got into this Twin Flame Universe cult on a Facebook forum, it was there again of saying, well, this twin flame concept or your twin flame is like the person you're meant to be with, and no one else matters. Like you only have one. And so this person is supposed to like complete you in a way that no one else can, and you're supposed to be in love with them and stay with them forever. And it's just, I mean, they could be abusive, they could not be, they could be a predator, they could be someone older, younger. And I think it's just like a way of saying like, okay, well, this person may not be, healthy or whatever, but you got to stay with them because it's your twin flame and it's your other half of your soul. So, so.
So when you say that you're supposed to love this person, is this an intimate romantic kind of love?
Yeah, like I think when Jeff and Shalia were talking about it, I think like at first it might not be, and then it eventually is, and then they talk about, I remember Jeff was talking about specifically about how great the sex is and how great the maybe the friendship is, and it almost kind of made it seem like you're just stuck with this person and isolated with them, and they're supposed to like meet all your needs. And I just thought, well, I mean, other people can meet your needs, not just this one person. So I just thought maybe it's like a way of setting you up for getting abused by someone controlling, or, something like that.
You were asking questions when people were coming to you with these kind of new, strange ideas, and having doubts, having questions, which is healthy. And of course, is something that we all encourage in this space. But something has happened at some point for you to stop having those doubts and those questions.
Yeah, you mean as far as like if the twin flame concept is real or not, or
Yeah. And what the leaders are trying to sell you, you find yourself buying into.
well, I mean, they convince you that there's this one person that's meant for you, and it's like, I mean, people date people, people go on many dates with people and have multiple relationships with people, and it's like, why is it just this one person? I mean, it would be nice if it's just that one person and then that's it, but yeah, I mean, I mean, the thing that started happening was like they're trying to help you find your twin flame, and they assign you who your twin flame is, or they just enforce who your twin flame was. And then they started like getting you to like work for them. And it's like, wait, I thought you were supposed to help me with my trauma and with my relationship issues to meet the one, and then you're having me work for you to recruit people into this group and to sell your book. So it's like, well, but I thought you're here to help me, not the other way around.
Right. So before we jump into your experiences in the twin flame movement, as this is something that you have found later on in your life, as opposed to something that you've been born and raised into, I wondered if you could just talk us through what your life was like as a child, what your experiences were growing up, and the place you found yourself in when you first came across the idea of twin flames.
Sure. So to start with my childhood, it was pretty rough. My parents divorced when I was 6. I think my mom has a personality disorder, and I think my dad has like some rage disorder. I mean, they both grew up with very violent fathers. So I never got hit or anything like that, but supposedly my dad said we did, but I don't really remember that. A lot of lying, a lot of chaos, a lot of stuff going on with that. My parents wouldn't really work, so I grew up pretty poor. But we got a lot of help from grandparents and stuff like that. But Yeah, it was pretty toxic, a lot of fighting going on. And then I was pretty neglected by both parents because, when parents are fighting so much, they neglect the children and they don't get properly fed. And then I also grew up with the second oldest out of five kids, and I had two brothers that were Gemini twins, actually, and they were twins, and they had a terminal disease. So we had to deal with that, and we were poor. So we had to deal with that. And then we also were exposed on TV for my brother's diseases, my brother's disease. Um, they were Eric and Aaron, so they both were fraternal twins, and they had muscular dystrophy, and they had a Jerry Lewis telethon like in the 90s, and I think they stopped doing that a few years ago or so. And so I grew up with sick brothers. I grew up with chaotic parents that didn't really know what they're doing, and then school wasn't the greatest. I struggled in school, but then I would be okay. And so it was just kind of all over the place. And then what led me up to being in the Twin Flame group? I mean, I didn't know anything about Twin Flame stuff or spiritual stuff until, maybe 5, 6 years ago. Like stuff with crystals and healing and all of that. I mean, a lot of it, I don't think it even really works. But so the point in my life where I entered into the Twin Flame universe, I was kind of struggling financially, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. It'd be nice to meet somebody, but dating's always been hard, especially in New York. So yeah, I was just kind of struggling. I just needed support, and I didn't really have that from my family. So I just kind of was like throw myself into forums, just talk to people and try to get healing, because therapy costs a lot of money, so I wasn't able to pay for that. At least I didn't know at the time. So instead of going to therapy, I decided to get into groups where they promise to help you. And there's a lot of life coaches that promise to help you with your trauma, and they're only a life coach. They're not really getting the clinical training they need to properly help you with trauma. So not that they can't help you at all, it's just they're not really trained that much. So that's how I got into the Twin Flame thing. And then I was involved with an older man, and that's another thing with the Twin Flame thing. The person that is a Twin Flame could be married as well, and you continue to pursue them even if something happens on his or her end, of like maybe their spouse finds out, or maybe there's a restraining order in place. You still got to see him anyway.
Well, when I was researching the history of twin flames, the definition that I found on Medical News Today said twin flames, also called mirror souls, are terms used to describe a relationship ideology rooted in New Age spiritualism. The concept has seen increased popularity in recent times. It promotes the idea of an intense soul connection between two people thought to be each other's half. So as you said, the other half of your soul, the other part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read the term New Age spiritualism, I was thinking, I wonder if there are direct influences from things that I've covered on the podcast before. So when I was looking up some videos about the New Age spiritualism within Twin Flames, I found some videos by cult expert Joe Zimhart. So I watched one of those, and he was talking about the influences from the Rosicrucian age. And that's kind of like Joe's jam. That's like his specialty. That's his expertise, all coming in around the Rosicrucians. And what was interesting about his video on that, which I'll link in the episode description, was the propaganda that he was able to read from the esoteric teachings of Rosicrucians around chemical marriages, which is essentially exactly the same thing. It's just been rebranded and repurposed for today's age. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to tie those two together. What's problematic about, well, lots of the things you've said sound problematic, especially around age difference, marriage, restraining orders. but you were in a abuse recovery forums, and that's where you were approached by somebody who brought this concept to you. There must be a lot of individuals in these spaces who are at particularly vulnerable points in their lives. So it's kind of worrying that's how a person would be introduced to a concept like this.
Yeah, I mean, she just mentioned it and just how like what what made her stay in the relationship, but then I kind of heard things about how she actually does get a little abusive to people actually in the group, or just she charges a lot of money for her services. She's not even trained in anything. Melanie Tanya Evans, she just talks about two bad marriages that she had. And I would think if you're like a narcissistic abuse expert, I thought, maybe you would have a lot of relationships under your belt, or it's just two. Um, and just I just thought it was just interesting that she just said it, and that's what made her stay longer, was because of this concept that she learned from. I mean, I think they said in Australia it's pretty spiritual out there, so maybe she heard it from someone else and just was like, oh, I'll just stay in this marriage because that's. I went to a psychic and they told me it's my twin flame, something like that. So
This person that you've met in this Facebook group, is this one of the founders and leaders of Twin Flames, or somebody that's a part of the program and is encouraging other people to get involved?
So when somebody sent me a random friend request, it wasn't a specific person, just the Twin Flame Universe was sending me requests. It's been a while, but I think it was Twin Flame Universe was sending me an invitation to go in the forum, and I first got approached by Brianne Price, and she's still in it. And she quickly just like as soon as you enter the forum, I was getting tons of video calls of so Brianne Price, she was actually, I think she was already a certified life coach already for the cult. And Jeff pushes the life coaches to sell the book and to get I think you get a few free life coaching sessions, and the people doing them are really scared themselves and they're just being pushed to do it and to sell. So then after you get, so they're trying to push you to buy the book, then they push you to do, so you get the free sessions. I think it was 5, and then after that you pay money for the coaching sessions, and I think they do it like 111, 222, 333. So it was like $111, and then I think if you go up, I'm not sure what it's up to now. It might be like 333. So it's like $333 for the lower, just like the sessions. And you also get 2 days a week. You get like live video sessions with them with a group. And mostly everybody in there just overshares. Everyone's very traumatized from their childhood, and then they're throwing in who they think their twin flame is. And some of Jeff and Shalia's main people would enter. Fabian, I think he's German, he would enter randomly. And he had a lot of rage. He didn't go off on anybody, but you could just tell he just kind of moves erratically, and he has like some anger and stuff. Then I think there was another woman that came in, but Brianne Price is one of the main life coaches that's been in for a while, and she's not planning on leaving, I don't think. I don't think. And then Fabian, and then Deanna would do intake of, like, say I did decide I wanted to pay for the coaching sessions, and Deanna did an intake. I think you pay through PayPal too. So
you sent a friend request from the Twin Flames Universe, which is the official
mm-hmm.
name of the movement that we're talking about today. And you are put in touch with, you're in contact with Brienne Price.
Yeah.
So do you and then you start having video communications with her. She starts
Mm-hmm.
calling you and talking to you about, I mean, how does she pitch it to you? Does she just say, what are you looking for in life? And then says to you, well, actually, we can give you those things. with Scientology personality tests, they're looking for your flaw. They're looking for your ruin. And once they find that ruin, you know, I wish that I earned more money. I wish that my marriage was happier. I wish that my uh, boss respected me more. Whatever it is, once Scientology have that ruin, they can then propose to you a program that will get you those things and, you know, essentially make your life better. So is that sort of the approach that's taken here, would you say, or is it different?
It was kind of like she was very childlike, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to buy the book? Do you want sessions?" Like, just
Like
very
that,
childlike,
okay.
just right out the gate. And then I was just like, I think at the time I was just like, I think I said I just wanted to meet like-minded people and just like, I don't know, spiritual or very intuitive people like myself. And I would talk to people and just I don't know, she seemed kind of happy and cheerful, and I was just like, oh, you want to, it's like, you want to video call me? And I had other people do it too. It was a guy named Chad, and I think he later changed his name, which was very odd. And I actually eventually saw him in person. I could tell you that a little bit later, but yeah, I was just right out,
These are
just direct,
these
just
are
right out the gate.
all other people involved in the Twin Flames universe. These are all people that are trying to video call you.
Yep. There was a few other people that were doing it too. I can't remember offhand. But Brienne was the one that originally contacted me, and then I started talking to other people, and you know what they thought of Jeff, and then I would get random people messaging me of like asking me what they should do in the cult. So um, it was just, that happens a lot, even in person. I'm very approachable, so everybody tells me everything, and I just thought it was just like everyone's very clingy and desperate in there too. So, and Jeff kind of goes off on all the followers. So, I mean, I learned that later, but I just felt like everyone's very scared for some reason.
So the Twin Flames Facebook account that adds you as a friend, is this a profile or is this a group that you're invited to join?
It was a group that you're invited to join. So they have a forum
Okay.
on Facebook you could join. Yeah.
And this is how everybody is sorry, this is how everybody is introduced to you and then able to try and video call you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they could call me outside of it. I mean, unless I add them as a friend or they message me
Right.
and do a video call that way. So the only way that I got the videos was just like immediately right when I joined the group. So I was in other spiritual groups online of like thinking I have psychic abilities, and I'm extremely intuitive to the point where it actually kind of scares people. So I was just like, you know, maybe I do have abilities, or maybe I just have heightened intuition. So I was already in other groups, and somehow I just got this random request. So maybe I was just like they found my name, and then they just send multiple requests to like anybody and everybody. And that's what they did eventually. They would have you help recruit. So
Okay, okay. So what are your first impressions? You're added into this group. Do you get a lot of people starting to contact you immediately, or do you put a post out saying, "Hi, I'm Cara. This is who I am. This is what I'm hoping to find help with."
at first everyone initiated contact with me, and then eventually started posting things, and then I'll get a lot of people following me on that, or Um, but then, you know, when I joined the group, I mean, obviously people know who I am because I'm in the video calls twice a week. So people know my name more. But then I wanted to leave, and they kind of chased me online. So I was trying to get out of it and back out, because I thought this was like, what is going on? Everyone's very desperate here. I don't know what I got myself into. So then I wanted out, and because Brianne Price went off on me like randomly with her, she kind of went off on me like my mother does. My mom's very disordered and very abused as a child, so I kind of thought she did a little bit of that with me, like just kind of went off on me randomly, and I wanted out. And then I was going on Kiora posting how bad the cult was, and then Deanna, Fabian, and Brianne Price were like, "Come back, don't say that, stop what you're saying, stop that." And I was like a little scared of like, whoa. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should go back. Like maybe I did something wrong. So then I did. And then I continued to stay for like almost another year or so.
Wow, this is so interesting. I know that the Teal Swan support groups operate primarily online, so it feels very akin to that, as you've already said. You join the group, you start posting things, it gets a little bit overwhelming, so you try and back out. But at this point, you've had Brianne's already called you, you've had a few other people, Chad calling you, trying to sell you books and courses. So this is the book by one of the founders, Jeff Devine. Is that right? The Twin Flames book by Jeff Devine.
Yep, it's not his real name, but that's his so-called Twin Flames spiritual god name.
Jeff Devine, Twin Flames, Finding Your Ultimate Lover. And he's married to the other co-founder, Shalea Devine.
And that's not her real name either. So they go
They've
under
been
aliases.
they've been known by other names, such as Shalea and Jeff Ion or Aon.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also been known as Ender Ayenathos and Megan
Mm-hmm.
Plant. They're two other names that people might have heard these two people go by. So once you do you buy the book? But you mentioned that you do go on to do some of the courses. How much do they cost and how long do they last for?
So well, it's a monthly subscription. So with the book, it's a one-time thing. So I bought that and then I read that, and it was just basically about how Jeff and Shalia met, which was I think it was online, and he was a vegetarian living in Hawaii and had his own bed and breakfast or something like that. And then Shalia was like living with a roommate working at a hair salon, and she like barely had any money and was like overweight and did tarot cards. So they met through like her doing tarot cards with him, and then she left where she lived to go live with him. And he originally said he didn't like her at first, and then they learned to like each other, and then he was going to try to get back with another ex, and just it was like a whole mess. So it's just basically about how they got together and how their relationship transpired. And I just thought it was like, so where am I going to learn where I'm going to find the ultimate lover? Like, I don't really remember anything other than how they met.
Are you told that you'll be able to complete these courses more successfully if you've read the book?
I mean, Jeff and Shalia, I mean, I don't know. I came across someone else that kind of did something similar to this. Like, they need to tell everybody how they met. And it's just like, okay, but it's just a relationship. Like, you're not a celebrity or anything. I mean, Jeff and Shalia are a little different, but I just thought it was weird where, like, okay, why do you need to tell the whole world how you met? Like, okay, everyone meets somehow. Like, okay, maybe it was just interesting circumstances, but then it's not like you didn't even want to be with her anyway. um, so as far as the book, I didn't have to buy the book. They just pushed for it. And then for the sessions, it was just $111 a month. But then they also had, that was just the coaching, that was just like the group sessions with the life coach for, I think it was like 2 hours a night or something like that. And so then that was 2 days a week. And then there was another thing you could purchase where it's called the Ascension. What was it? Like it, or no, Life Purpose. So then they can help you figure out what you're supposed to do for your career. So they help you find your lover, forever lover, or, you know, partner or whatever. Then they'll also help you with like what you need to do as far as a career. And some of the stuff that Jeff and Shirley would suggest are like, you're probably not going to make very much money doing that, but do it anyway. Because this is your twin flame, which is what you're destined to do. And Jeff and Shirley, Jeff especially would change things on you. So like he told some girl that was making pretty good money to quit her job. And so he'd be like, you need to quit your job. The person you're with is not your twin flame, so break up with your partner, sell your house, do all this stuff. Keely Griffin, I think is her name. She's been speaking out quite a bit about the cult, and a lot of people are saying she's abusive or whatever, but maybe it's just she's just been abused. But I saw one time in the forum through words on the screen of Jeff yelling at Keely to quit her job and to like move across country to go live with her twin flame, which I guess she said it didn't work out. I think Jeff and Shalia and people in the group will kind of give you money if you do that. So she basically had to live in a dumpy room with some guy that is her twin flame, and so it was really wacky.
So in this Facebook group, Jeff and Shalia are there and they are interacting with members and they are part of these weekly video chats that you're having.
So the other thing was, okay, so there's the book, there's the 2 days a week with a life coach. So there could be a lot of people in the group. Then you watch videos of Jeff and Shalia of videos from like a long time ago, I think leading up to present. Then there's also the life purpose thing. So it's just all these things that you need to purchase. So when you pay the $111 a month, I think at the time is what I paid, you get to watch these classes. And I was kind of scared to watch them. When I watched them, it was like, so you're watching Jeff and Shalia talk to other people, like as a group. So Brianne Price was in there, Fabian, a bunch of other people. So I can remember things like Jeff is like literally sitting there and playing video games while Shalia is talking about talking to an angel. Like it's just like all over the place, bunch of clowns. Then they have a dog coming in, they're petting the dog. Then Jeff and Shalia will, and you can even see their housing situation changes. You can see it kind of looks kind of dumpy, almost like kind of like, I think they have a housekeeper and everything, but then Shalia would kind of give it away of like they're kind of poor, but they have a housekeeper, and I just don't understand that. I guess supposedly Jeff went to school for business, and then she went to school for psychology, and then she got into spiritual stuff, so they're combining like this business together. But I think Jeff kind of comes from rich parents. I'm not quite sure. So I just thought it was weird where like you could see it kind of looks like they're kind of living not in the best situation. You don't see holes in the walls or anything like that. And then you could see like, whoa, they're like in this big grand house, and then they're posting pictures of like a luxury sports car, and it's like, we're paying for that. So I mean, everyone's got to make money. I understand that, but in the videos, you can, Jeff is like going off on people, or sometimes some of the people in the group are going off on Jeff, or Jeff will give suggestions. And I mean, there's no real like coaching really going on. He's just telling you what to do, and then he'll like go off, and you can even see them gain and lose weight too. Like she's overweight, then he's skinny, and then she's skinny, and then he's a little overweight. So you can kind of see like how the relationship changes over the time. But they'll talk about their sex life, they'll talk about spiritual stuff, they'll talk about anything really. I mean, sometimes they give good suggestions, sometimes they don't. It's like they're just in their early 20s. I mean, it's not to say you can't be smart at that age, but some of the stuff they said, it's just, or one time Jeff did a fake ceremony of saying, you guys are now married because I just said you are. Like just, probably the biggest thing that I noticed too was people will say who the twin flame is, and then they keep changing who it is.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if Jeff is necessarily doing that, but I feel like, I don't know, it's like a revolving door of like, I thought you said this person a twin flame, but maybe they thought it was more like a mother figure, and then they get with someone that that had a sex change, and they get with them. It's like, wait, who's your twin flame? Like, is it this person? So, but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
strange. It's kind of like when a
yeah,
group positions itself around its own doomsday prophecies. And then when those dates come and go and nothing happens, there's a
right,
strange kind of reasoning, or, oh, actually, we got the dates wrong. We were looking at this calendar when we should have been looking at this calendar. And then
right.
kind of just move the goalposts.
Yeah, I would say
So
so.
that's when you base your whole thing around you meet your soulmate and that's your other half and that is it. That's your twin flame. For them to then
Right.
be like, oh no, actually it's not your twin flame. It's just somebody you have a really good bond with. This is your twin flame. That must be exhausting to go through that process over and over. So you pay £111. I'm guessing 111, that number is not random. has
No.
some type of significance or something with the kind of spiritualist aspect?
Yeah, I mean, like if you look up angel numbers, like 111 could tell you that new beginnings with a person. I mean, I see number sequences all the time. Like I'll see my dad's birthday every day. I'll see, even though he's deceased. So, I mean, I can even see my, when you really think about things, they really can manifest. I believe that because that's happened to me so many times. Like I needed a new phone, and a new phone just comes in the mail randomly. Or I lost my watch, or I needed money, the money just shows up. Um, but just besides that, yeah, just the 111, I think it was just like new beginnings. And I thought I was like in the cult when it was like really starting to spread like wildfire. I mean, I haven't been in it like some people have, like Keely, like she's gone to the church they have in Michigan and things like that. So I knew there were meetings secretly, like in New York City one time, and I saw pictures. And so they'll kind of find like secret locations to go. But I guess now they have a church that's all out in the open. I mean, I don't know how big the church is in Michigan, but it must be big enough to be known. And they're doing a documentary about it. So.
When you pay for the life coaching sessions and all of the other things that come with that monthly subscription, do you have to put a deposit down, or are you expected to attend a certain amount of sessions, or can you just pay 1 month and then never go back again?
I mean, you want money and then you're not going to show up. Or you want to give your money and then not show up. I mean, they're like, hey, thanks, but people might be like, sure, you want to pay me and not show up. Um, no one really said like you have to like show up, but they're very big on like, oh, stop going at each other, just work on your healing and do the mirror exercise. Um, so I mean, it wasn't like I have to be in the sessions. I mean, if I'm
Did
paying, I probably
they
should attend, but
did they have a minimum number of sessions that you were required to attend before you would be considered a coach?
I'm not exactly sure of like, I mean, it's just I think you had to pay quite a bit of money to become a life coach. Yes. I think you had to pay, I thought it was like $2,000 or more, something like that. I could be off on the number, but I remember you had to pay quite a bit because I saw a picture of Brianne Price of her with a certificate with Jeff and Shalia, and so I would say a couple grand. Yeah, a couple
I
grand.
read an article that said the most expensive program that the Twin Flame universe offers is $7,000. So I wonder if that's the Twin Flame Ascension coaching that you mentioned earlier on their website, twinflamesuniverse.com. It says your ascension coach is the secret to unlocking the full potential of the teachings of union. Having the support of a highly trained professional to guide you to navigate this journey is critical to your success.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I said I wasn't sure about the number. I mean, maybe it went up like when but actually, Brianne Price said she got paid $2,000, I think, for commission. So maybe that's what I'm thinking about. Um, yeah, I think you get commission whenever you get people to sign on. So Jeff would push the life coaches to like really sell the book and really do all this stuff because they need money to pay for their sports car and their big house, which
Just
I
to keep
think they're
living.
renting. Yeah, well, another thing I wanted to mention was the house that they got. I think Jeff and Shalia were trying to have a child, and they were thinking about getting a bunch of some of the people in the group to move in the home to like provide services. So like I think Keely mentioned she does a lot of farming, so Jeff was going to use them for her and her twin flame for farming. Then they were gonna, but then he kept changing his mind. So Jeff would be like, "Yes, I want you to come. No, I don't want you to come." So I think they wanted someone to do nanny services, and then they were even mentioning they were afraid that people in the neighborhood would catch on that they have a cult going on in their house. So then they're like, oh, no, we can't do it. We don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to lose our fortune. So,
How many of these monthly payments do you make before you decide that this is not for you and you're going to go and tell the internet how strange this group is?
Like, how long did I pay for before I left? I thought it might have been 3 months. So,
And then
yeah.
you go and you speak out against the group, and then you're approached by some of the inner circle who then come to you, convince you to come back in. And how long is it that you're part of the Twin Flames universe the second time around? Up to maybe a year, you said?
Yeah, so it was like 3 months, I think, the first time, and then I think I stayed for like 8, 9, 10 months. So I went back and stayed a little bit longer, and it kind of reminded me of my childhood a little bit of just like, um, just you want to leave, but then you want to go back. There could be some guilt. Then you thought maybe it's not really that bad, but then it is. So you get a little confused of if it's really that bad. I've had people go off on me in there. Everyone seems very clingy and desperate. And Trump was in office at the time, so I think that might have played into a lot of what's going on in the group. So,
When you are in the group and you're wondering, who is my twin flame? Do they just assign someone to you? It's such a strange concept, and it's making me think of the Unification Church, where some young moon was just kind of like, you and you are life partners. You and you are life partners. And he just picks up two pictures of random strangers who have probably never met before, pairs them in a mass wedding, and then they're expected to live together forever and have a family of holy children.
yes and no. Like no one said, okay, Kara, that's your twin flame. It was just more like I already thought it, and I just thought it was, and then they just kind of pushed for it. But what I saw with Jeff and Shalia was like, say you're on a dating site and you're talking to multiple people, to just say, oh, it's that Christian guy. Oh, it's so and so. I think it's him. And then they're like, oh my God, I like the person. I don't want to ruin it. What do I do? Oh my God. So then Jeff will kind of like coach the person, like, this is your twin flame. This is how you approach them. This is what you say. This is what you do, kind of thing. And then, but then but everybody would just think like an ex partner is a twin flame. So like this one lady, she was in the classes that Jeff and Shalia had of like, I think like I think the woman mispronounced Shalia wrong, and Jeff got very offended by that. And then Jeff said, the guy you're with, you need to leave him. You need to kick him out of your house. And then you need to go back to somebody that was from her foreign country. I think she might have been, I can't exactly remember where she's from. It might have been Croatia. But she thought this person that she was with 30 years ago was her twin flame. And she rearranged her life, and turns out that he's married and that he can't get out of his marriage unless he pays like $400,000 to get out. And she was a lawyer and she was going to try to help him get out, but it's like they were together 30 years ago. It's like maybe it's not going to work now. So, and then she would show, I think she even said she showed up where he lives and showed up where he works. And it's just like, that's
That's
kind of
so
crazy.
strange.
Yeah. And then the guy was like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And it's just very interesting of like she's just like people rearrange their whole life just for a relationship. And it's very unhealthy to do that.
Yeah, that is weird. It's so much like this really creepy Charlie Brooker dystopian show where people take these tests and it tells them who their perfect match is.
Oh, geez. I mean, talk about same sex. Yeah. I mean, they were, well, it says mirror, and then they did the mirror exercise. So it's very interesting. And they said your twin flame is like your mirror. But in the group, Jeff was talking about doing charts where, like, you go in there, people will tell you if it's your twin flame or your soulmate. Maybe you can have multiple soulmates. So they, so I guess Jeff and Shalia would charge money as well of like coming up with some chart. They came up with something where they would tell you like what you're supposed to do for a job. So just kind of like what you said, just almost kind of like a test, but then they're just kind of like, it's not like the Myers-Briggs test where you're trying to determine what your personality is, but I think they just like you pay this money and then they like just tell you. I mean, obviously you're asking questions of like, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be with? And then they answer it by giving this chart or whatever. And but they did have the same sex thing of like this woman, it was a lesbian couple, and Jeff was saying one of them has to be named a man and change their name and do all this and that. And I think they were pretty, yeah, they push for sex changes. Like you need
Like
to
in a
change your name.
homophobic way.
Yeah, like I think a lot of it was they were basing a lot of beliefs on Christian beliefs, and Christian beliefs are kind of somewhat traditional. So it's like there has to be a woman, has to be a man. So it's like, okay, get a sex change your name, do this and that. I mean, it's one thing if you want to and you're planning on it, you can't do it yet. You're saving up money or something like that. That's one thing. But so Jeff and Shalia were getting on this couple. I think it was Anne and Ashley or something like that. So they were saying Anne needed to get sex change, do all this and that. And I think they like said no. And I think Jeff kind of kicked him out of the group. And Jeff's very big on kicking you out of the group and stuff, just over nothing. Like, I think he's a total narcissist. He's probably very immature. So there was that. And then a bunch of people were cutting their hair short to look like a boy and just I think they didn't want to cut their hair, but they did it. And then they think their twin flame is a woman, or if they're gay, it's a man. So,
If you're exceptionally vulnerable and you're going through a really difficult time in your life and you've found this community that you've paid a monthly subscription to be a part of, and you have to be very careful about the things that you say and the way that you act, and you have to conform with what the angry kind of overlord is telling you to do, or risk being kicked out of this group that again has become your community and that you've
mm-hmm.
paid to be a part of. That must be a really exhausting and difficult experience for somebody to have. You must be constantly in fear of losing that community, and I'm sure that's exactly the reason why this individual is so quick to just kick people out, to maintain that level of fear within people that follow him.
Right, of course. Yeah, I kind of grew up with a dad like that. So it was really brought that home of like, well, my parents are kind of like that too, where they just rip the rug out from underneath you just over something. It's very authoritarian. So it's their way of operating. You can't say anything. They were very big on that. Like, don't speak out against us. Don't say anything negative. We're very quick to cut you. And it's just like, well, they'll do that anyway, over anything. So it doesn't matter. So yeah, you always have this constant fear and anxiety. And a lot of people would stay up all hours of the night, just so worried about, just getting cut out of this group, and you don't really have family or friends, and you're just kind of in this cult and just. I was told I was in a cult. I already knew I was, and just like I was just trying to figure out how to get out of it myself. I don't need someone else to do it. Because I'm an adult, if I make mistakes, let me make a mistake, it's a pretty big one, but but yeah.
That's so tough. If you're somebody that could really benefit from seeking professional medical help as well, and you're placed in this environment, I imagine that has the potential to significantly exacerbate ill mental health. And then you're worrying about potential suicidal ideation, and descents into deep depression and self-harm. Are these themes that you're familiar with in terms of people that have been involved with the Twin Flames universe?
Yeah, I myself, Brienne Price, she went off on me and kind of verbally went at, kind of say verbally abusive. She just kind of yelled at me and just kind of went off, and she seemed a little unstable. And she kind of, so my parents would do that. So I feel kind of suicidal when people do that to me. So she told me to call a hotline, and I did. Like she got into my trauma, even though she's not really trained into it, and just kind of dug into something I haven't gone to in a long time. And I did feel suicidal at the time. And then I didn't do anything, but I called a hotline and they calm you down in crisis. And I never did that before. I just thought you just go to your parents for that. But, if they're abusive and not equipped to handle it, you can't really go to them. So my mom's way of handling crisis is just praying. And it's like, no, I need to talk to a mental health professional. And she won't even do that. So, but she has a lot of trauma herself. So it's all the people in the group, a lot of them were angry, hostile, suicidal, poor, rich, but then everyone's very emotional and like everyone's just very desperate in there and just people cling to you, people and then people started giving money to each other to help everybody out and some people were just kind of lying about their situation or they're basically like giving up their life to go with this twin flame and then they run out of money, then it doesn't work out with the person and they run it, become homeless or so it was just a mess. And a lot of people would just leave the group. It was just, everyone's just getting so angry. And I think Jeff and this one girl came up to me who's Asian and I think her name was Stephanie and that's actually my mom's name. And she was asking me, Jeff was trying to assign her to run the group. And she didn't know if she should do it. So she asked me, and I said, well, it's your choice. I'm not going to say no or yes. I mean, it's up to you if you want to do that or not. I mean, if it's that hostile, don't do it. But then I think Brianne Price actually became the human resource manager of like, if there's conflict or issues, she'll handle it. So, and I kind of knew she was going to be assigned that too, which was kind of weird. So as far as that goes with Brianne Price, it's just interesting where he wants a lot of women to do these jobs. So
the religious aspect that you mentioned before is interesting because firstly, I imagine if that's the environment that you grew up in with your parents and your mother kind of relying on religion and prayer to deal with conflict and issues in the home, then it might be difficult going into a community when you're older where there are themes and tones of the same sorts of things. There's a 1-star review of the book Twin Flames Finding Your Ultimate Lover by Jeff Devine. And it says in the book, in the review, the people who wrote the book think that their truth is the only truth. They're not open to what others have to say about the Twin Flames journey. On top of that, this book is talking about religion too much if you're not into that at all. There are other books on twin flames that are more open-minded. So do you recall the religious themes in the book when you read it, or is it something that Jeff would talk about more in the video calls?
it's been a while since I read the book, but I think there was a lot of religious undertones. I mean to go back to my own family, it's not like my mom really prayed. She's Catholic, but then she's doing Christian stuff and then my dad's Jewish, but then he started to like do cult like things. Like he wasn't praying or anything like that, but just they're just very disordered. So they'll just get sucked into anything. So like I think I felt suicidal. My mom was like, oh, talk to my pastor. And it's just like, I don't know what praying's gonna really do. It's like she was the one that caused a lot of problems for me and I'm trying to talk to her and she doesn't really know what to do. So but yeah, as far as the book and in the classes, I thought it was like a bit of a Christian undertone of like Christianity mixed with spiritual stuff as well. And um yeah, because so I think it felt Christian to me because of I think Jeff's upbringing, and then the spiritual stuff was more Shalia.
Right.
So because
Again, those
she was
two.
yeah, I mean she was living in Arizona and there's the vortex out there, so and it's very spiritual out there apparently. So
And you mentioned that there's the business aspect that Jeff's bringing, and then there's the
the
other side.
psychology,
And then,
spiritual
yeah.
stuff, yeah.
And then there's the psychology that Shali is bringing. So again, just kind of blending those experiences and belief systems together is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the reluctance to accept the LGBTQIA plus community into the Twin Flames universe may come back to some of those religious teachings or Christian overtones, but perhaps it's just the personal beliefs of one or both of the leaders of the Twin Flames universe. It'd be interesting to know. And I wonder if other people have looked into it. I imagine that they have. I know that there's a Vice expose that has come out about the Twin Flames universe, which I'll put in the episode description a link to if anyone would be interested in having a read of that. You've mentioned that there were several different roles that people could have within the Twin Flames universe. So is there like a business hierarchy here of different employment titles that people might have?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like they were starting to do that where like there was intake with Deanna, then Brianne Price was human resources. I mean that's who people that are higher up are Jeff and Shalia, and then it's the life coaches, then it's the people wanting to be life coaches, and then there's the people that enter. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what it is now, because they have a church and everything like that. So I'm sure they have a whole slew of, you know, employees now, people that they use for whatever. And I mean, I even saw this with another cult. It was a 1970s cult. There was a Netflix series on it of Wild Wild Country. And they, yeah, I mean, they would utilize, like, if you're a lawyer, we'll use you for law stuff. We'll, you know, if you're a farmer, we'll use you for growing our crops, you know, just anything that they can use you for. And again, that's almost kind of like some families where, like, you have some families that, okay, one kid fix cars, we'll use you. One kid could give me money, what, you know, things like that. So, but Christian Northrup, who is a empathic doctor, she mentioned in her videos about the Waldorf school being a cult and the Wild Wild Country thing being a cult. And the reason why I brought up Wild Wild Country is because they were actually recruiting people from New York to go to Oregon, and they were trying to take over the state. And they would utilize a lot of the people in the group. Like, they even had somebody even shave the legs of the leader. So I'm not sure what the extent of it is now with Jeff and Shalia, but I'm sure they have a lot of slaves.
Well, you've mentioned that they were considering creating an intentional community where people could offer their services, which I interpret as labor trafficking. You know, work
Right.
these hours, do all of these things, maybe still have to pay for your monthly subscription, or
That's what happened.
£7,000. $7,000 it is for the everything course, according to their website.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like, sorry to cut you off, the kind of work that I was starting to get into was, so you're paying the monthly subscription, and then they're like, okay, you're going to start helping recruiting. And I was like, oh, I have to do that. I don't really want to do it. So I looked into it. I never went through with it, but I saw everything that's involved. And it was a spreadsheet that had a list of all sorts of groups to try to recruit people from, especially on Facebook mostly. But then some people said they started going into video games to do it as well. I'm not sure what those games were, but as far as what I saw, it was just like a spreadsheet, and then you put your initials next to, like, the form that you posted something in to advertise, and it's just like they kind of just throw you into it, and it's like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, what am I going to say? Hey, join the group, or just be like. So then I actually started to get a little convincing with it. I almost convinced, not almost, I did convince someone in my hometown to go in it, because she had a lot of issues with her family as well, and she kept saying this older man that died was her soulmate and this and that. And I was like, oh, maybe you should go in the group and see if they'll determine if it's your twin flame or not. And she was in, and then she was just like a day. You shouldn't pay for anything. Well, thank God. But so yeah, I mean, they will make you work, not right away, but sometimes it's right away.
And it is telling that Brienne didn't really give you the hard sell or use any hard recruitment tactics on you or any type of manipulation. You just joined a video call and she was like, hey, buy this book. Which is,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe a little bit of manipulation because she's using like her sweet voice and trying to be all nice. And it's just like, whenever I hear a sweet voice, I'm not used to that. I'm used to people being very verbally abusive to me. So it's like, okay, I'll do it. And it's like, wait, I can't really afford it, but I'm doing it. But she sounds so nice. I feel bad if I say no. And then this Chad kid, I gave him $500. And
Gosh.
then he eventually came to my house and slept over.
And I mean, being in a video call with somebody who's directly asking you to do something, I imagine, I always try and say to people before we record these sessions, if I ask you a question that you would rather not answer, tell me and I'll move on to the next question. Because I never want people to feel pressured into answering things. But if you've got somebody like, buy this book, what do you think? Are you going to do it? I imagine that that must be quite that must be, well, it is quite coercive, but it's kind of open and it's not as underhanded, like, oh, I'll give you something for free and then you can buy this book, because I've done something for you, or kind of one of those foot in the door tactics that people use sometimes.
Hmm.
But it's telling that you're then told that you should go out and recruit people, but it's not like you've been trained or coached in how to do that and be successful
Right,
in it. You're just told to go out and do it. And it's kind of, I
right.
imagine, what Brienne was doing as well, just going out and doing, the best that she could to make money for the leaders.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just like, I mean, I don't mind direct. I like direct, but it's like, um, but I think originally it was just like, yeah, I mean, it's free sessions. It's like, ooh, something free. I mean, that perks you right up, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then it's like, wait, there's this, then there's this, then there's this. And it's like, oh wait, it's not as free as I thought. I mean, the sessions were free, but then,
If you really
um,
want to find out who your twin flame is, then you're going to have to join the monthly subscription.
right, and then, yeah, it's like you gotta pay all this money, then we'll tell you, oh, but then you gotta do this. So then before you know it, it's like you're sucked in, and then who's my twin flame again? It's like, wasn't I here for this originally?
You have gone into this group. Have you asked about, have you met anybody you think might be your twin flame? Have you asked for any kind of idea or guidance from the leaders who might direct you towards your twin flame, or inquired about somebody that you've known in your life before or someone you work with? What's your journey on finding your twin flame?
So I just thought it was my dad's friend, this ex-military guy who actually turned out to be a predator and rapist. Um, of course, he's friends with my dad. So what ended up happening was I just assumed he was. Like, we had a lot in common. We got along pretty well, even though he did assault me, and I kind of like forgot about it. Like, I was really tired and very lethargic and like low iron in my blood. So I really don't think very well when stuff like that happens, and I'll be convinced otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought it was my twin flame just from what I read and stuff before. And then people just kept kind of asking about him. And as soon as someone said it's my twin flame, I'm backing out. Like, whoa, it's not. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to wake up and get out of this. Um, so as far as like reaching out to people with their twin flame, I mean, I would just kind of listen to what they say of just like how much they have in common, just how long they got along, how well they got along with the person. Like, I just thought if it's a twin flame, you're just like good on all levels, but you could just be very highly compatible with somebody and just things are very smooth and free flowing like that. But I mean, I will mention, I did ask Jeff one time, messaged him, and I said, how does one become what you do? And he said, oh, you're assigned by God. And then it's like, wait, but if our twin flame is assigned by God, then why are you doing it? If it's assigned by God, so God's coming through you to tell us like who your twin flame is. So I would question everything. They don't like that. They hate that because then it means, uh-oh, the jig is up kind of thing.
Did you ever have anybody come to you and say, I think you might be my twin flame?
Um, no. That would be weird if it was though.
I can
Be like,
imagine that'd
wait.
be so strange. Someone coming to you and saying, "You're the other half of me. You're the thing that completes me. You're the only thing in the whole world that makes me
I
whole."
I mean, I started to think everybody's my twin flame. I actually started doing that, like just like, oh my god, we got along so well. But it was just like, wait, that's carried away. So I even did that with the person I'm with now, who I don't want to be with anymore. I was very convinced that this person is my twin flame, and even though I missed all the red flags and I ignored them, so it got even weird where like I started to kind of obsessively think that is it them, is it this person, is that person? So I mean, they kind of make you question who it is. And like Brianne Price, like her twin flame was some older woman at a job, and then she had a lesbian partner at a house, and then she got rid of all of them, and then now she's with a transgender woman trying to be a man, I believe. And it's just like, wait, you like went through like three people, with two people to get to your twin flame. It's like I thought you already knew who it was, so it's very confusing to me. So.
Talk us through the situation with Chad. Who is Chad? You sent him money. He came to stay. Is this somebody you thought could have been your twin flame?
Not at all. It was just a very angry kid who I get this a lot where like I'm kind of tall, so I get a lot of shorter, very wounded males gravitate towards me because I'm very nice and kind of motherly. So I he nagged me for money, and then he eventually said that his dad gave him money, so I think it confused me with his parents. And then he wanted to travel to visit some of the girls in the group. So it was me, it was this other girl down south in Louisiana. What his goal was, he was visiting all of us, and then he was going to go show up where he thought his twin flame was and try to marry her.
Oh gosh,
And
stop. Oh, that makes my butt
yeah,
cheeks clench.
uh, so so he stayed the night at my place, and nothing happened or anything like that. It was just, but then the group told me that I'm supposed to have him stay over, but Brianne Price didn't like him. She blocked him. He would rage online, and my issue is a male will rage. I make a beeline for them. So I have this issue of like raging males. I think I could fix them. So that's what kind of what happened. And he would rage at me a lot in videos and stuff. And then I'm like letting him come to my house. I should have said no, but I didn't. And so I think we did a tarot card reading in the group, and a bunch of people like watched it, and he kept wanting a hug from me, and then I gave him food, and then he said he was going to sleep in his car, and then he was like, no, you can sleep on, I have a mat on the floor, you can sleep over there. And then he brought all of the stuffed animals in and everything. And then I gave him $500 originally off of a credit card, which I shouldn't have done because I was kind of struggling financially. But it was like, it's whatever, it's just, this is a great group, great people, I need to spend all this money and give it away. And so he stayed over, and then his next stop was he went to Louisiana or Missouri. I don't know if he met anyone else on the way before that, but he met Angela, and she's actually, I'm not going to give out her full name because she does have some fame, so, and she doesn't want her career ruined, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about her, but she was previously like a beauty queen or something like that. And so I think he visited her, and then I think his twin flame supposedly was down there, and I think she worked at a daycare or something. He was trying to show up where she was, and I don't know if she was even there. But then he just kind of disappeared, and he like changed. Well, originally he changed his name in the forum to something else, and then he like disappeared. He actually, I think he has a YouTube channel where he would try to sell the book for Jeff and Shalia. And then the other thing was, I think he sent a birthday card to Shalia, and she appreciated it. So, trying to get on their good side and send him gifts, and, so I thought that was very odd. And I think it was like her birthday, and then he had like pictures of planets on it, and it got weird. So,
The strangest part, and it feels strange to even say the strangest, but it's not. it's not exclusive in the way that your twin flame must be somebody else that is also looking for their twin flame. So you could have somebody come up to you on the street. Maybe it's like a family friend who you've never really noticed before, but they've noticed you and they've become absolutely convinced through these teachings and through this belief system that these two people have created, and maybe have even gone to them and said, could this be my twin flame? And they've said, it's a family friend, it's somebody you've known your whole life, or the neighbor that lives down the street. And then someone could just come up to me and be like, you're my twin flame. That is so bizarre.
Well, it got even more bizarre because I think the actor Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool, I think somebody said that I'm your twin flame, and then he had to get a restraining order on the person. So it's getting out of hand to where people have to get restraining orders and bodyguards and protection because this group, it's not just Jeff and Shalia, there's a lot of other ones doing it too, of just like, this is your twin flame, it doesn't matter, you need to see them. Like there was this one other girl that was in the group, in the twin flame group. She's very sweet, she had a very good personality and everything, and but her twin flame, she couldn't talk to her twin flame anymore because the wife found out, and her twin flame had a blocker, and then she still continued to talk to him, or just kind of. So I did that, where I continued to talk to. I didn't get a restraining order or anything like that, but his wife kind of came at me. I mean, he's a serial cheater to begin with, anyways, and he's very childlike. So, then. Yeah, it's just like you're kind of ignoring it. And I mean, it's not just the group. I mean, I didn't get proper attention and stuff as like a kid, and dating's always been hard. So it could be like you're clinging to the person as well. But probably the biggest thing was just like celebrities are starting to get issues with people claiming, oh, it's you're my twin flame. And
Well, I
they have to get,
imagine as well
yeah.
that if you are somebody that's maybe introverted, shy, doesn't have a lot of confidence or experience in speaking to people that you are attracted to or interested in, that it must be so much easier to have people say to you, this is the right thing to do. This person is definitely interested in you. This will be reciprocated. And then you're could possibly be feeding into the psychiatric disorder of erotomania, where delusions in a person manifest where they believe that somebody that's typically like higher in social status is in love with them, like going up to Ryan Reynolds and saying, you're my twin flame, you're the other half of me, you're the person that completes me, and he has to say, oh my goodness, I need a restraining order.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just weird how that happens. Just, I mean, you could just be so convinced of something, and I mean, that's how cults operate. They get you to, I mean, you might have mental health issues already, and then this group is like convincing you of this person that is your twin flame, and then it's like, what do you mean you're not my twin flame? Like, they told me you are, and it's like, why aren't you with me? If you're not going to be with me, maybe you might get attacked. Somebody was mentioning that I think that the group is getting more violent. If you go against Jeff and Shalia, I thought Keely Griffin said something about it, or she was exposed to like some shooting, not from the cult, but in the area they're in. So just, yeah, just, I mean, you could be so convinced of something. I mean, even a lot of people even said that with Trump. Like, they were so convinced that that Nancy Pelosi and all these people are going to like take all these things away from you, which they never did, and just egg you on that you just will take extreme action like you would normally do. And it's just like, I don't know why I did that. I was so convinced of it. So that's why I feel like with this group, like they get them so amped up that, and it can even be like Jeff and Chili are abusive to them too. Like, they're abusive to them, but then they're also like egging them on to like protect us. But then it's like, then they're not really nice to their followers anyways. So it's like, why are you protecting someone that doesn't even like you? So, and I kind of feel like that with my parents. Like, they didn't protect me very well. They attack me, but then they want me to help them. So
Perhaps that's where the narcissism that you've mentioned comes in, you know, drip feeding the nice, appreciative, positive things so that you hunger for those. You're like, I'll stick through the negative stuff because eventually I know that that good stuff's going to come, even if it's only short lived.
Right. Like
But
the
on the flip side,
breadcrumbs.
absolutely like the breadcrumbs. And something else you mentioned, sort of on the flip side of the Ryan Reynolds scenario, is that there are other celebrities that are using terms like twin flames. So I wondered if you could just mention that to the listeners.
Yeah, Jennifer Lopez, she mentioned she thought that Mark Anthony might have been her twin flame. And so she said, I think Alicia Keys might have said it. I think Beyonce might have mentioned something about it. I can't quite remember if anyone else. But I think a lot of these people are from New York. So, and I hear a lot of spiritual stuff that happened in New York City, Long Island down there. I even heard something from my aunt of just metaphysics. Like, a lot of famous psychics come out of New York, actually, or the East Coast. So I just thought it was just, I mean, some of the stuff that they say is super accurate. I mean, even I can kind of do it a little bit. I think it has something to do with living by the water. I'm not quite sure, but just, yeah, it was Jennifer Lopez, Alicia Keys, and then you have the issue with Ryan Reynolds. He didn't believe it, but he's around someone that's trying to say, like, hey, you're my twin flame.
If
But
you hear that
yeah.
term being used by very famous, very influential pop icons, then you decide that you're going to look that up and you come across the Twin Flames Universe website, which is the first thing you're going to find when you type in Twin Flames on to Google. There you have more issues because if you are somebody that is vulnerable, suffering, unwell, this is this is something that could exacerbate those things, make those things worse.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to also say real quick. So Jeff at one point mentioned he wanted to maybe start doing the twin flame stuff with celebrities and wanted to charge like $30,000 to celebrities, and then, which is very unrealistic, and then maybe they might buy into it, and then I remember Breanne Price was actually excited that celebrities were starting to mention this twin flame concept. She was like really elated about that. And I just thought was like, oh, well, obviously, look, some of them are mentioning it. I don't know anyone else that has. And you can always Google that. But
So what is it after your year or so of being back in the group that makes you leave? You're familiar with Jeff at this point. You've spoken about messaging him. Are you in contact with Shalia at this point as well, both of them, and the people that are working for the Twin Flames universe in sort of human resources and other parts of the company?
no, I'm not in touch with anybody. There was this one girl, the one that was kind of famous because she's kind of part Italian like me. So that's why we connected. And she's younger, and I have like a younger sister and stuff. But when the documentary company, when the film company for for a few documentaries were contacting me, I did reach out to some people that were previously in the group. I think an Andrea, and try to reach out to Keely. I don't think I heard anything, and it was like, I think of maybe one other person, and just because they needed some footage and interviews for the documentary. But like, as far as now, I don't talk to anybody from it, and I don't really follow it or anything like that. I just because these film companies contacted me, I've been kind of like, helping them out with information. Like, for instance, the podcast I did with Sarah Steele on her podcast of Let's Talk About Sex. She had a recording of like Jeff kind of going off on the followers, and then I relayed, like, I didn't have that footage, but someone else had that on YouTube. And but yeah, I never was really close to anybody really in the group. I talked to people here and there, but I was never like close to Shalia or really talked to her, or I mean, Jeff, the latest thing was Jeff called me a liar on YouTube, and I deleted the comment. I think it was about a year ago or so, maybe a little less than that, and I made a YouTube video about it.
You should have left it. You should have left it up there so people could
I
come and see
know.
that
I know.
he's clearly bothered by your content. Otherwise, why would he bother putting comments putting
Right. I
comments
should
there?
have left it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right.
So how was it that you decided to officially walk away from the Twin Flames universe?
I ran out of money. So I ran out of money and I had to get out of it, and it was like hard. Like you felt like addicted to being in the group. Of just like you feel like you get these. It's almost like they love bomb you. So to be all nice to you, do all this stuff, and then go off. So and there was a few nice people in the group too that I like talking to, and I do video calls with people all over the world. I thought that was really fun and fascinating, but just I ran out of money, and um, I think I spoke out against the group, and I think that I kind of like I think I left, and then I wanted to come back, and then some people kind of went off on me a little bit. I was like, I gotta leave. So and a lot of people were in terror as well.
When you've spent, a couple of $1,000 being a part of this group, is there not any type of payment plan or any type of services that they offer for individuals that are struggling financially to remain a part of the community, or do they just tell you if you can't pay, you can't stay?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, I could just be in the forum. I just can't like if I don't have the money, I can't pay for the classes or whatever. But um, I think if you speak out enough, I think they'll block you at some point. Um, but I don't really know what they have now. I mean, I just knew at the time, just you could be in the forum and just you don't really have to type anything, but you just be in it. I mean, if they catch wind of you talking really badly about the group, I'm sure they'd probably, you know, ban you. So,
And if you are not in the coaching program anymore, if you're not in the video calls, if you're not paying the monthly subscription, but you've got loads of people from the Twin Flames universe that you've connected with, added each other as friends, maybe sent DMs to, are those people encouraged to stop talking to you, or can you just carry on those relationships as normal?
that's a great question. I think it could be kind of like that, where like you're not in it, you shouldn't talk to us. But I mean, I have people that wanted to talk to me anyway, and I mean, not anymore, but I think with some people it's kind of like that, like being very loyal to the cult, and people would message me outside of it, and it was fine. But
So how long ago was that when you finally walked away?
it was a few years ago. Time has went by really fast. It was like 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, 2 3 years.
And you've mentioned that you have a YouTube channel now. So what is the name of your channel and what type of content do you release?
So my channel is just my name, so it's Kara Brodsky. I mean, as far as the spelling of my last name, it's not too hard. It's B as in boy, R O D as in dog, SKY. So it should just be under my name. And I have videos. I have a video about Two Swan and other. I'm going to add more content. So
I'll put a link to that in the episode description if people want to go and watch some more content on your experiences with the Twin Flames universe. Do you still have your copy of Jeff Devine's book?
no, I don't think I bought it. I think I just did the online version on Amazon or Audible or something like that.
And in terms of your experience with the Twin Flames universe, has this prompted you to read up about cults and coercive control and become a bit more informed or educated around the subject, to understand what it was that you went through?
A little bit. I thought, maybe I might be able to help other people as far as like, there's so many cults out there. So it's like, I'll be like, oh, if people are putting fear and guilt in you, you should probably get out of it. Because, I mean, it could even be with a religious group. It doesn't have to be like a cult that has like really out of this world beliefs, but um, yeah, I mean, no one should really force you into anything. No one should make you do anything you don't want to do. And people have all sorts of beliefs. Like, there's not one belief that everyone should operate out of. It's like be open to other things. And so, yeah, I mean, I get fascinated with like how cults are very similar, like what they all do. And it just seems to be the same thing. Just there's a leader who's disordered and everybody follows this person, and then they're all wounded and scared or have terrible families, and then they just get sucked into this person, and then they drop them like nothing, and then they then they may commit suicide, or they may just be very depressed or whatever that happens. So,
And what has your life been like since you've left the Twin Flames universe? There's the YouTube channel, but there's also your studies.
I mean, it was a little rough. I mean, I've always needed some sort of counseling and therapy, which I've been trying to get over the years. It's really hard to get people to hear you, especially since people do a lot of trauma dumping and venting themselves. It costs a lot of money. So, it's been a little rough, but it's smoothing out. I'm going to school, and it's going all right. Could be better, but we're working towards it. So.
Your studies in your master's course in marriage and family therapy, do you feel like you're learning tools to help you with your own experiences, and you're learning vocabulary and terminology to apply to some of the things you experienced as a child?
Oh yeah, I mean, and even in the cult too, triangulation. A lot of people do that. They'll take sides and they'll use you to go against somebody. So, yeah, I mean, even with the cult and in my family and everything, just oh yeah, I mean, I kind of already knew what these terms were. I just didn't exactly like it's like the definition of these terms is like I knew, but I didn't know what the name of it was. So, but yeah, I know it totally helps. And being in your late, almost going on late 30s, you kind of have an idea of how families and relationships go, and it's just like, why not help people with them? So,
It's interesting that you had strained and difficult experiences as a young person, and you've had this cultic experience where you've experienced, then you've had this cultic experience where some of those same themes and tactics are used in that environment. And now you're working towards being educated and licensed to help people understand those experiences and overcome them as well. Is that something that just happened, or did you make that decision, that conscious decision after understanding your experiences?
I mean, as far as like wanting to be a therapist, or I used to clean houses for the rich and do housekeeping and things like that. What I noticed is they wanted to talk about their families more than letting me clean their home. So I was like, why don't I do that? And then the other thing was I took the Myers-Briggs personality test like a bazillion times, and it says I'm an INFJ, and they said they're very good at counseling people. So I was like, well, there's that. I like people, and I like helping, and I like love. So I like, and I like families and kids and helping out. So it's like, why don't I just do that? And then throwing into the whole cult thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of families push their kids to go to cults because, well, if they're not getting a good home life there, they want to seek it elsewhere. And that's what I kind of did myself, where like I love people and I want to be in groups and things like that. But I mean, if it's that controlling, it's like shouldn't be in it. It should be like, maybe meet up once a week and go for hikes, play board games, things like that. Nothing too crazy. So yeah, I
That
mean,
sounds
as
like
far
my
as being,
perfect week. Going for a
yeah,
hike and then doing board games. That's my perfect week.
yeah, I mean, okay, fine, go on vacation, go to a nice resort, go in the pool, just very relaxing things. But yeah, I mean, the cult didn't inspire me to become a therapist. I was just like, well, It is kind of hard to make money in New York a little bit without having a degree and having a license in something. So,
Well, here's my bright idea. If people don't want others to know that they're going to therapy, you could be like a secret therapist. You go in with all your cleaning supplies and you're like, I'm just a family cleaner. And then you sit down and you take off your apron and then you sit down and you're like, okay, let's pick up from where we left off last week. And then
oh,
you're
that
actually the therapist. And then no one knows because you couldn't drive. Imagine if you live in one of those neighborhoods where everyone knows each other's business and you're like, I can't
oh
even
yeah.
drive to this therapist's office because everyone knows that that's the therapist. So you could be the secret therapist.
It's funny. My neighbor actually said that once, like, "Oh, we're having a lot of problems here." It's like, "Oh, you're a marriage and family therapist. You should come help us." It's like, I mean, a lot of their issues are not really that solvable. I mean, there's some families it's just like probably should separate, but you
Yeah.
can't
And also
exactly say that.
therapy's not something that people should be ashamed of either. So
No,
but
no,
there
no.
is, I think, in a lot of communities where there's this kind of outward representation of what their inner life looks like, which is perhaps not always accurate. A lot of people don't want to disclose that they are in therapy or attending therapy. But yeah, so maybe Cara, secret therapist. Um and then people are you'll have to have some kind of code where people say, you're like, do you want the this is kind of I suppose in some ways kind of cult like to have hidden terminology where you say to
Right.
people, do you want the basic clean or the deep clean? And then if people are like, I am after the deep clean, you're like, okay, I can come Wednesday morning.
I mean,
That's
mobile
funny.
therapy, that might not be a bad option, just like, but you have video and phone, so you wouldn't necessarily have to
Yeah, that's
travel, but maybe
true.
they do want you to come in the home. And that's possible. I mean, with being marriage and family therapist, it's not just marriages and families. It could be like a company. It could be, a corporation of just like, hey, what are we doing wrong here? Why are some people bringing morale down? What's going on? What can we do to fix this? And so I thought that was very fascinating where someone said, I like to help military veterans and their families. So, or firefighters, like just a whole room of firefighters, like, just doesn't have to be their families. Like, so I just thought that was really cool to get into. Just I don't have to help. So that's what I can do. I can help advertise into people that are in cults of like, you were controlled, you were brainwashed, and now you're out. Now we're gonna talk about it and process what happened, and just know that you can live a normal life afterwards. Could have nightmares and things like that, some PTSD, but it's really the processing of having emotionally charged things going on within you. Like you'll think about it, but not as strongly as you did, maybe a year ago. So I just really like that. So
I love that as well. And I think that it's a year and a half until you finish your master's course and you have a really strong idea of where you are headed after that course. And that's really quite inspiring when we reflect on some of the experiences that you've talked us through today and hopefully inspires anybody listening that has related to parts of your story today. So my last question really is to ask you if you have any advice for people that have perhaps experienced similar destructive online spaces, dangerous online spaces that have perhaps been involved with the Twin Flames universe themselves, or something similar to that in which they are now deconstructing and attempting recovery from leaving an addictive online space.
So the advice that I would give would be, well, I mean, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, you can find people you get along with very well easily, but it's not too good to be true. It's just like natural, free flowing, and light. But what I would probably the biggest thing I would probably give advice on is just probably more the aftermath. Like in the beginning of it, you could be love bombed and you may not catch the red flags right away. But if you're out of it, I don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself. Make sure you find a good therapist who maybe even specialize in cult or controlled groups, because they know, they have the proper training for it. And I think any cult, you're going to have the same problems. So, like, it was an illusion that you were under, you were brainwashed. So definitely don't isolate yourself. And if you don't really have anybody, you could call a hotline. You could, I mean, if your family is deceased or past, or, abusive, definitely don't go to them. It's up to you, but if they're deceased, obviously not. But if they're abusive, I wouldn't recommend going to them. I'd just really get the mental health counseling that you need. And maybe you even needed that to begin with. So
Take your time, don't rush, seek counseling if you think it might be beneficial for you. And whatever you do, don't isolate yourself so you're completely alone. There's some wonderful things in there, and it echoes a lot of what other survivors have said on the show before. So there has to be something in those things that keep getting repeated. And it's interesting because I wonder how many people take their own advice. I often find myself saying, "Oh, this is how we should practice self-care," and then I'm like, "Oh gosh, I'm so stressed. Why am I not listening to my own advice?" But I do hear the same thing. So there has to be so much in counseling and seeking positive community, whether that's friends, families, loved ones, or positive online spaces. There are a lot of places that offer post cult support, groups that are made up of fellow survivors. So if anybody would be interested in joining one of those, please email me at cultvaultpodcast@gmail.com, because I am aware of a number of those that are ongoing, and the feedback from individuals from those groups is always very good. And of course, they are controlled groups in the way that there is moderation from individuals, or moderation by individuals who understand cults and coercive control, which is very important, because then that toxicity that you've explained happened in your space, Cara, there's no place for that in these groups.
mm-hmm.
So that kind of leaves us to the end of our chat today. You mentioned that your father's friend was somebody you considered as your twin flame. And then
Mm-hmm.
you started to wonder, oh, maybe it could be any of these people, maybe it could be all of these people. Were there any other individuals that you seriously considered or approached about this subject?
Um, the current person, and then I think I was like on online dating sites many years, like the time, like many years ago, of like thinking like every person that contacted me was, and I was just like, whoa, this is kind of a little overboard. I think just typically like if someone's very quick to want to get married or be in a committed relationship, I'm like, you must be my twin flame. So I was like very quick to think that, and it's just because I mean, I kind of have a little bit of OCD, so I kind of like overthink the same thing a lot. So that could have been a contributing factor. So,
And the person you're currently with now, who you thought had the potential to be your twin flame, have you discussed this with them?
oh, I mean, not just discuss, just kind of over dramatically tell them, and they got weirded out, and then didn't really work out. So I'm kind of on the outs right now. So,
So the twin flames concept is something that you do believe is something that exists.
no, not at all.
It's interesting, because I wonder how many people leave the twin flames universe either because they're kicked out, or because they leave off on their own accord, or because they can't afford the payments anymore, and still
Mm-hmm.
continue to believe that this concept is something that has any substance, which of course it might well do, in the same way that Jesus Christ might have walked the earth and have abilities and performed miracles. I always, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe that that's true, but I always say that one day the world could end and there could be one group that is carried to the rapture, and they'll be like, we told you we were the ones. We told you that we had it right and that we were the only ones that were going to be saved. And we'll all be like, well, gosh darn. It looks like you were telling the truth the whole time. Maybe it'll be the Jehovah's Witnesses. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it'll be all these people that have found their twin flames. We'll never know. But it's something interesting to ponder, I think. This whole time, maybe I'll just be proved wrong, or they'll be proved right, whichever way you want to look at it. So,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that you would like to add to our discussion today, Cara, before we finish up?
I think I covered pretty much everything. Just don't go in the cult. That's all.
Yeah, if you get a friend request from a new age spiritualist group that have some expose, well, I don't think this expose would have been out at the time, but have some exposés written by a rather upstanding media outlets, don't accept that friend request. Yeah, that's a great place to start. Fantastic, Cara. Well, I'm gonna thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you and coming and telling us your story today. And I appreciate your I appreciate where you are in life and how you are moving from your degree in psychology onto your master's degree, and how you have a clear plan to move forward in your own recovery and in helping other people in their recoveries as well. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care, Cara. Bye.